So we're reading Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila, chapter 21, the opulence and sweetness of Lord Krishna, text 16, 17 and 18. Seharaho Vrajayabe Krishna avatar. Seharaho Vrajayabe Krishna avatar. Tandra charitra vicha Tandra charitra vicharite mana napaya par. Seharaho Vrajayabe Krishna avatar. Tandra charitra vicharite mananapai par. Seharaho Vrajayabe Krishna avatar. Tandra charitra vicharite manapayar. Something like this. Okay. Seharaho. Leave aside such negative arguments. Vraje in Vrindavan. Yabe when? Krishna, Lord Krishna. Avatar, incarnation. Tandra, his. Charitra, character. Vicharite, to deliberate. Man, mind. Na, not. Pai, gets. Para, the limit. Translation. Apart from all argument, logic, and negative or positive processes, when Lord Sri Krishna was present as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan, no one could find a limit to his potencies by studying his characteristics and activities. Prakrita prakrita srishti koila ekakshani ashesha vaikuntha jandam svasvanat hasane. At Vrindavana, the Lord immediately created all material and spiritual planets in one moment. Indeed, all of them were created with the predominating deities. Eimatanyatra nahi sunya adbhuta yanhara shravane chita bhayavaduta. We do not hear of such wonderful things anywhere else. Simply by one's hearing all those incidents, one's consciousness is agitated and cleansed. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Prabhupada. When Lord Krishna was present in the earthly Vrindavan, Lord Brahma, taking him to be an ordinary cowherd boy, wanted to test his potency. Therefore Lord Brahma stole all the cows and cowherd boys from Krishna and hid them by his illusory energy. When Krishna saw that Brahma had stolen his cows and cowherd boys, he immediately created many material and spiritual planets in Lord Brahma's presence. Within a moment, cowherd boys, cows, and unlimited Vaikunthas, all expanses of the Lord's spiritual energy, were manifested. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhi. Not only did Krishna create all the paraphernalia of his spiritual energy, but he also created unlimited material universes with unlimited Brahmas. All these pastimes, which are described in Srimad Bhagavatam, will cleanse one's consciousness. In this way, one can actually understand the absolute truth. The spiritual planets in the spiritual sky are called Vaikunthas, and each of them has predominating deity, Narayana, with a specific name. Similarly, in the material sky, there are innumerable planets and universes, and each is dominated by a specific deity, Brahma. Krishna simultaneously created all these Vaikuntha planets and universes within a moment after Brahma's return. The word avadhuta means rambling, agitating, moving, absorbed, defeated. In some readings of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said, Yanghara Shravani Chita Mala Hoyadhuta. Instead of the word avadhuta, the word hayadhuta, meaning that the heart or consciousness is cleansed, are used. When the consciousness is cleansed, one can understand what and who Krishna is. This is confirmed by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Yasham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam tedvandva moho nirmukta bhajate mam dridhavrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are free from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Unless one is free from the reactions of sinful activities, one cannot understand Krishna or engage in his transcendental loving service. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We do not hear of such wonderful things anywhere else. Simply by hearing of those incidents, one's consciousness is agitated and cleansed. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiliti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarvyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ajanulam Vitabhajau Kanakavadhatu Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Daksha Vishwambharo Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palavande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Antah Pravishya Mama Vachimamam Prasuptam Sanjivayata Kila Shakti Daraksvadamna Anyamscha Hasta Charana Shravana Tvagadim Pranannamo Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhyam. Hare Krishna. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining to Srila Sanatana Goswami very important foundations of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. Every school of Vedanta philosophy, which are main 5, is distinct in its own way, trying to prove or to explain the absolute truth in a special way. We have 5 schools of theistic Vedanta. And each school has its own approach towards reality. Vedanta ultimately is explaining reality in completeness. That's the claim. Any other philosophy is trying to explain reality, but Vedantic view is the most complete and the most comprehensive description of reality. And among those schools, again, one can boldly claim that different degrees of completeness of reality or description of reality is manifested. And that really depends on the approach. And what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining here to Sanatana Goswami is basically the foundation of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, which, according to our opinion, and we can soundly prove this opinion, is the most comprehensive and most complete description of reality. Because in any other philosophy, some parts of the reality and corresponding parts of the scriptures are omitted. They don't find a very comprehensive and very logical explanation. So basically, if we take Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy as a unique school, philosophical school, there are two main verses or pramanas from Srimad Bhagavatam, which are foundational for our philosophy. And we all have to be very clear what is the specialty of our philosophy. The specialty of our philosophy lays basically in the explanation of two verses from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. One is Vadanti tat tatvam vidas tatvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti brahmana bhagavān iti shabdyate. That's the famous verse from the second chapter of the first canto, 11th verse, where it is said that one absolute truth is seen from different angles. The absolute truth is one, but the perception of this absolute truth is threefold. And because of the perception, because of the angle of vision, we have the variety of statements in the Vedas. The variety of statements in the Vedas should be explained in this way, that this is the description of one reality, one absolute truth from different angles of vision. Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavān iti shabdyate. That's one very important verse of our philosophy. And definitely the second one is Krishna's tu Bhagavan svayam. Eteh chamsha kalach pumsah Krishna's tu Bhagavan svayam. And no other school of Vedanta philosophy really gives the comprehensive explanation of this verse, Krishna's tu Bhagavan svayam. Even though the verse is so simple. All other manifestations of God, they are kalas and amshas. They are parts and parts of the parts and parts of the parts of the parts. But to Krishna is svayam Bhagavan. And everyone is puzzled. Nobody else dared to explain that Krishna is the original avatari, the most complete manifestation of God. Because everyone else will try to explain that this is this and this way and that way, twist the very clear statement by Sutta Goswami himself and say, yeah, but Krishna is also avatar. According to everyone common understanding, whoever you will ask, you will say, who is Krishna? Krishna is avatar. Who's avatar? Vishnu's avatar. And only Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was the first one who said, no, he's not avatar. He's the source of all avatars. How? Why? Because nobody else manifested the potencies to that extent. Vishnu? Forget it. Vishnu cannot play flute even. Want to speak about anything else? Even this much he cannot do. And that's a very peculiar point of our philosophy, which not many people can really understand, because according to everyone, God is Vishnu. And they can make a good case out of it and prove it soundly from different pramanas of different scriptures. But here in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in his explanation, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's explanation to Sanatana Goswami, he is actually making this point very clear, why Krishna is the Supreme. and why he is the real object of worship, and why it's only for him we should have our exclusive devotion, not to any other avatar, with all due respect. Ultimately, we have to emulate the mood of gopis when they saw Narayan. They said, "Oh, dear well, they didn't see Narayan, they saw Krishna who pretended to be Narayan." So their reaction was, "Oh, my dear Supreme Lord Narayan, very nice that you are here. Have you seen Krishna somewhere?" Basically, we don't care about you. We are looking for Krishna. So, but in order to have this exclusive devotion, which is not so easy, which is not such a common thing, which should not be taken for granted, we have to be very clear, extremely clear, and completely convinced that that's the way to go. And that only Krishna is the source of all avatars, and ultimately he should be worshipped, not anyone else, nobody else. And when we chant Hare Krishna, we are calling for him. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And the case which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining or making while proving this point is that nobody else, in not any other form of God, manifested opulence to this extent. Aishwarya, his lordliness, because Aishwarya means from the word Ishvara. Ishvara means the power, the controlling power. No any other manifestation manifested controlling power or Aishwarya to that extent. But at the same time, no other manifestation would manifest the different aspect of Godhead, his sweetness to the same extent. Nobody else. You take any other stories about anyone else, nowhere you will see that limit, that practically unlimited limit. It's not possible. Basically, Srila Prabhupada explains that here the word avaduta is used, and the word avaduta means that you become totally bewildered when you even try to imagine what really Krishna could do. In one split second, he can manifest unlimited spiritual universes and material universes with all the heads and all the population of it. In one split second in Vrindavan, he's doing this. Not possible to imagine. Don't even try. That in one split second he can manifest just one universe with all the living beings, with all their particular individualities and biographies, and and now all of a sudden it's boom there. Not possible to imagine. And he is doing it unlimitedly, and therefore it is said here that when you think about this, Chitta Haya Avaduta. Avaduta, Srila Prabhupada says that your mind becomes agitated. Your head starts reeling, what's really going on. And not only your head, 4 big heads of Lord Brahma were also reeling. Our small head, it's not really difficult to make it real, Our mind is quite bewildered anyway, it's always reeling. Whether you try to imagine what Krishna manifested or not. But, he says here that when Lord Brahma has seen the glimpse of Krishna's potency, he became totally, completely bewildered. And at the same time, totally, completely purified. Because Prabhupada is explaining that this avadhuta or higher dhuta, and that the chitta and the consciousness was purified when we try to imagine the extent, unimaginable extent of Krishna's glories, of Krishna's opulence. But at the same time, this in itself would be very wonderful. But the most peculiar thing, that by being so glorious and so powerful and so I don't know what, so unbelievable, he's at the same time so sweet. And he's totally innocent. Srila Jiva Goswami, he explains this episode when Lord Brahma realized the potency of Krishna and started offering his prayers to Krishna, and really in a very enthusiastic way, full of enthusiasm, he was bubbling these Sanskrit verses glorifying Krishna. And Srila Jiva Goswami says that Krishna was standing there as a simple cowherd boy, and he was looking at him, and he couldn't understand anything because he doesn't know Sanskrit. He's just a Brajbasi boy, but and he was smiling. And Srila Jiva Goswami says, why he was smiling? Because he was wondering, this four-headed creature is offering prayers from one mouth, but from another mouth some other sound is going on. And Krishna is smiling and he's trying to figure out what's going on. You can imagine, somebody is speaking to you and the four mouths are there, and because Brahma, why he has four mouths and four heads? Because he has to recite four Vedas at the same time. So he can really do this, He can recite different things with different heads, And he was doing this in front of Krishna. And Krishna was wondering, far out. Very interesting. So, and that's the definition of sweetness. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gave a very interesting definition of madhurya and Aishwarya, which we have to know and to understand, to really have the key to understand Krishna's pastimes. Because ultimately, if we have the key, if we have this password to these pastimes, then by reading about these pastimes, we can be more or less transported into these pastimes. And by being there and witnessing these pastimes, our consciousness will be completely cleansed, totally cleansed. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains that the mood of the difference between the mood of Aishwarya and the mood of madhurya. He says that Aishwarya is this mood of God when he only manifests his lordliness, his power, his heroic or whatever, his unbelievable nature. And when he's in this mood, then you can only relate to him in a very reverential mood. He just more or less instills this mood in you. When he shows his unbelievable power, then you will have no choice but tremble in fear. And there is no any other way to relate to him in this particular mood when he is manifesting his Aishwarya. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that that's exactly what he did when he was manifesting his universal form, Virat Rup, to Arjuna. And when he just in one point, he unpacked his universal form. He kind of made it visible to Arjuna in one point. Arjuna In one point, Arjuna saw everything, and he started trembling. And then he said, in the same way, he manifested his power to also to Brahma. In this particular pastime, he all of a sudden manifested all these powers because actually that was the act of his mercy. Because he knew that the cause of bewilderment of Brahma was that Brahma couldn't really relate to him. He's so used to relate to him in this Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha, Sahasraksha, Sahasrapad, all this, Purusha Sukta mood. Lord Brahma, he always recites this hymn from Rig Veda, Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha. He has thousands and thousands and thousands of heads and thousands of eyes and thousands of legs and thousands of everything else. Sahasra Shirsha Purusha. And Krishna, a little innocent boy, he says, you want to see me in this mood? Yeah, no problem. See it. Because he wants relationship, and Brahma cannot relate to him in this form. So he manifested these opulences, this Aishwarya. But at the same time, for a second, for a split second, Brahma has seen this amazing display of his opulences, but in the next second, he again sees Krishna, very innocent small boy, standing there, looking, having that's actually what really turned off Brahma's head, because he had this yogurt rice in his left hand, and he had some pickle which is between the fingers of the left hand, and he was taking by his right hand something from the left hand and was eating, which is, Lord Brahma he just can't see it, because it's so uncultured. It's the limit of unculturedness. Krishna not only manifested the limit of his opulence and madhurya, but the limit of his unculturedness. Because according to Vedic culture, this Abhiras, and Krishna was from this tribe. This is a tribal Abhiras. They are very low, really low-class people. And Krishna, Nanda Maharaj, is from this Abhiras. And in Vedic culture, Abhiras, they are called not Shudras, they are called Mahashudras. Because they are so dull. They're always with the animals. And because when you're always with the animals, you also become very dull. Krishna is there, having this rice and, eating from his left hand, and, it's just... And Lord Brahma looks at this, and he can't understand anything. So, again, Srila Jiva Goswami says that when he realized, when Krishna displayed for a split second complete, unlimited opulences which he had, and at the same time all of a sudden became again just normal little boy, Lord Brahma wanted to offer obeisances to him. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that he fell like a golden rod in front of Krishna. But Srila Jiva Goswami explains a very peculiar difficulty which Lord Brahma had at that moment. He wanted to make complete obeisances to Krishna, because that's the only thing which we can do. Tatenu kampam susamikshamanam bhujane vatmak kritam vipakam hridvag vapubir vidadan namaste bhujataya mukti pada sadaya bhak. So he wanted to have this, complete obeisances. Obeisances with his speech, obeisances with his body, obeisances with his mind, everything. He had big problem because he has 4 heads. So while one head is on the ground, another head is looking up. And he's trying to put this head also down, but when he puts the other head down, another one is still up. So Srila Jiva Goswami says that he had very awkward sort of situation while trying to, pay obeisances with all the four heads, because it's kind of from the geometrical point of view not possible. So you can't really put all the heads at the same time on the ground. So he was not satisfied with his obeisances. He was not satisfied with the level of his surrender. He wanted to surrender completely, but could not. But still, he was somewhat happy that at least he is there on the ground in front of Krishna. And Krishna was looking at him. It was really funny for him. He was thinking, far out, what's going on here? So that's the situation. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains that Aishwarya mood is the mood when God only manifests His power as much as He manifested to Vasudeva and Devaki while He was speaking to them with four hands and explaining their past lives and explaining and basically saying that I'm fulfilling your promise. But then he says, what is madhurya? Madhurya means whether he manifests power or not manifests power. It's not, sometimes he manifests power, sometimes he does not manifest power. But either manifesting power or not manifesting power, he is at the same time undisturbed in his naravat mood, in his human-like mood. He may manifest unlimited power, but still his mood as being a human-like creature, child, is undisturbed. He's still child. His power is manifested, his Yogamaya manifesting his power, but he himself feels that he is the child. Like when he was killing Putana. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives this example. He says when Putana, he started sucking her breast. Little baby, he kind of clung to her breast and started sucking, and Putana was anticipating that now he will be dead and he will just kind of fall off my breast. But instead he was just clinging there and started sucking her breast, and she started yelling at him, "Muncha, muncha, leave me alone, leave me alone." And then, she, because of pain, she started flying. And, you can imagine probably with all this movie and everything, it's a very interesting picture, every scene, huge witch is flying. And, according to the scenario, Krishna at that moment could have manifested his power. He was deciding like a small child. Now she's totally, completely bewildered, and he would probably, if it was a bad movie, he would probably started laughing at this moment. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. He was probably no, he didn't. He couldn't understand what's going on, why his nurse is so nervous. He couldn't understand what's really going on. He's just a small child. He is manifesting these unlimited powers, unbelievable powers, but at the same time, his naravat mood is not disturbed at all. And she when she was dead, He's just crawling, totally, completely bewildered, not understanding. And the point is that he's not pretending to be bewildered. He is bewildered. That's exactly that's how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this. He says that, if he was not bewildered, Queen Kunti would not be bewildered. She was bewildered because he was bewildered. In her prayers, she gives this verse. He says, what's this verse? Gopya Dade. I don't remember now. But anyway, he says that I can't understand because I've seen, at that, some acharyas explain that Queen Kunti, at that day when Damodar-lila took place, that Queen Kunti came to visit Yashoda in Vrindavan. She wanted to see Krishna. So she was a witness of this lila. She was probably among those ladies who were there with the ropes trying to help Yashoda to bind Krishna. So Queen Kunti says, I can't really understand that I know you're God. I have no doubt that you're God. But at the same time, I see that you're crying and your eyes are really frightened and you're looking here and there. And I know for sure that you're not pretending to be frightened. You are frightened. The one who's the death personified is being afraid of is frightened because some cowherd lady has a stick in her hands and running behind him. And Queen Kunti says, this is what completely bewildering me. I can't, I could understand if you would pretend, if you would just play a role. That would be understandable. What I can't understand is that you're not pretending, you're frightened. You're really frightened. And that's exactly what constitutes madhurya. Madhurya means when the naravat mood is not disturbed, no matter what. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, okay, when he displays the power and his mood is not disturbed, you can understand that this is sweet. This is really sweet. He says, it's really sweet when somebody who is so opulent at the same time is so loving, is so innocent, is so, this is really sweet. There is actually an interesting story from Akbar's time. Once Akbar had a peculiar habit. He would call all his courtiers and he would ask them some bewildering questions, checking their intelligence or their way to do this. So once he was in the court, in his courtroom, and he asked his courtiers, what punishment will we inflict upon a person who would pull my mustache? Can you imagine, big king of, Mughal empire, very powerful person with big mustache. What kind of punishment will we do if somebody will pull my mustache? And all the courtiers started saying, we will decapitate him. We will just cut off his head. We will hang him. We will do this. We will torture him, this and that. And then he asked Birbal, what would you say? Birbal said, I would probably give him some sweets. He said, Birbal, what are you talking about? I'm asking, what punishment would you inflict on somebody who is pulling my mustache? He says, yes, of course. The only punishment which you can do to him is to give him some sweets. He says, how come? He says, because the only one who can do it is your little grandson. And if your little grandson will pull your mustache, you will not decapitate him, will you? You can only give him some sweets. So basically the point is that if somebody is so powerful, but at the same time is so human-like, is so like in this, relating in this way, like this big Akbar, you know. He's very powerful, but you know, when he's dealing with his little child, with his little grandson, he's dealing in a very sweet way. You know, he's pulling his mustache and he says, "Yeah, right, take little sweet." So that's he says when there is this when the Aishwarya and madhurya come together and manifest together, then it's sweet. It's very interesting. But then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, what about the pastimes where Krishna didn't manifest any Aishwarya? Like while he was stealing the butter, he didn't manifest any Aishwarya there. He was just stealing the butter like a little child. So what is so sweet about this? It's sweet when there is huge power, but at the same time, despite of having this huge power, you're not manifesting the power, you're manifesting your human nature, your sweet, loving nature. That's very sweet, that's madhurya. But if you're only manifesting this sweet, loving nature, what's so sweet about it? It's not so sweet. It may be sweet, but not that sweet. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, why Krishna manifests these pastimes? It's understandable when he manifests the pastimes where two are together, and that's really interesting. But when he's just like a human being, like in Rasa-lila, what's so sweet about this? You know, he's just a young boy, and you know what's so sweet? It sounds like very ordinary. But then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, no, it's still very sweet. Why it is sweet? Because the power is implied. We all know that the power is there, that he can manifest the power. He doesn't manifest this power, and it doesn't matter. The main point of sweetness is that he is the most powerful. He is unlimitedly powerful. But at the same time, sometimes he manifests the power, sometimes he doesn't manifest the power, but he behaves in a very normal way, either manifesting or not manifesting the power. And that's exactly the point which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining in this chapter to Sanatana Goswami. How this Aishwarya and Madhurya together, and how this Aishwarya and Madhurya together to such an extent in Krishna, which makes him bhagavān svayam. Basically, that's philosophically, he is trying to explain why only Krishna. Why Krishna is the ultimate object of worship and nobody else. No any other avatar, not Ram even. What to speak about Nrisimha and anyone else. Only because of this, because it's all together, and we really have to understand this. And when we understand this, as Prabhupada is explaining, when we understand this, then our chitta, our heart, will automatically be cleansed. When we really understand the nature of God, then the attraction towards God will manifest in a natural way, because now, due to the covering of the contamination, the attraction does not manifest. It's like if you take a rusty iron, then the rusty iron, because of this rust on the surface, is not really attracted to the magnet. This covering of rust is the hindrance, the impediment for the iron, which is naturally attracted to magnet, but it's an impediment for the iron to be attracted to magnet. In the same way, because of our material contamination, which is there in our consciousness, the thick covering of this material contamination, because it's there, we don't feel attraction towards Krishna. Don't feel. We chant His holy name, no attraction. Like one devotee, he was joking. There is this famous verse of Rupa Goswami, which is there in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Na jane janita. What is this? Krishna varna dvayam amritam. He says in this verse, while explaining the attractive power of the holy name, of the name of Krishna, Srila Rupa Goswami says, when I chant the holy name, I feel like I want to have thousands of mouths, and when I hear the sound of the holy name, I want to have thousands of ears, and when the holy name comes into the courtyard of my heart, all the senses become very still and, don't move, and I only want to hear this holy name, and I don't know, how much nectar is there in these two syllables, Krishna. I don't know how much nectar is there, Srila Rupa Goswami says, and one devotee, he very aptly says, yeah, he's right. I also don't know how much nectar is in these two syllables. Absolutely don't know. Because there is no nectar for us. We don't have, because the heart is not attracted. Why is not attracted? Because it's covered. And therefore, Srila Sanatana Goswami, being the Sambandha Acharya, the Acharya whose real mission to explain to us the attractive power of Krishna. That's what Sambandha means. Sambandha means that we have to understand our connection with Krishna, our relations with Krishna, and for that we need to clean our heart. So therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's explaining this to him so that he would explain it to us. And as Prabhupada says, as it is indicated in this verse, if we hear this and try to understand what's going on, try to really understand, not just mechanically read and, right. No, but really understand who is Krishna. How much power he has, and he did manifest. And at the same time, how sweet he was during all this unimaginable display of power. Then our heart will be cleansed, and the attraction will be felt very, very naturally. We will really, if we really understand who is Krishna, the desire to be with him will be very natural. Yeah, right. Far out. I want to be there. I want also to be in the dust of Vrindavan with one of my heads, down, paying obeisances to him and laughing and smiling with him and everything. So that's basically the meaning of this whole chapter, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining to Srila Sanatana Goswami and the amazing power of Krishna and his amazing sweetness. And the first verse of Brahma's prayers is actually explaining this. The first verse from the 14th chapter, Namide Tebrava Pusheta Dinambaraya, Gunjavatamsha Paripicha Lasan Mukhaya, Manyasraje, Kavala Vetra Veshana Venu, Lakshma Shriyem Ridupade Mapashupangajaya. He says in the first verse, he says, oh, my dear Lord, I know you're God, but at the same time you're so sweet. Lakshmashriye mridupade pashupanga jaya. He says, Lakshmashriye mridupade. You have such a small feet. Brahma is there in front of Krishna's feet, and he sees really tiny, small feet of Krishna. And mridupade means very soft. Lakshmashriya mridupade, pashupangajaya. Pashupangajaya, he basically says, you are of this, you were born among these cowherd people. Pashu means animals. People who are dealing with animals. And you're pashupangajaya, you're there. And, oh my Lord, I will never be able to figure out who you are because you're so sweet. And that's what he says, explaining that he is baffled by Krishna's sweetness and surrendering completely. Therefore, then he says, Gyane prayasam udapasya namanteva. Let's give up all our intellectual efforts to understand God. Gyane prayasam udapasya namanteva. And just surrender to Him. Not intellectually, just being conquered by His unlimited sweetness, and at the same time Aishwarya, which is covered by this sweetness. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj, for such insight. Plus, these days there are so many techniques available even amongst the Vaishnava community for different ways of purifying oneself, self-development, psychology, and somehow due to this materialistic background, one can feel, oh, this is what I need to do to get rid of this anartha or this memory or this thing that happened to me in the past. So how to develop faith that actually these pastimes, which seemingly have nothing to do with my, with it externally, but my things would still purify me and develop the faith.
All these psychological techniques, they may be useful to a certain extent, but we really have to understand the limits of these psychological techniques, because you're basically not adding any new quality to your psyche. You're just more or less exchanging the energies or whatever, trying to free this and that, and ultimately it's very limited. And not only limited, but it's also materialistic. What is dangerous about borrowing all these techniques from the different traditions and trying to apply it? Sometimes we may recommend even this, but we have to be really careful by mixing different methods. Because every method which is developed on this path or that path for purification of the heart, and there are so many methods out there. Psychology is not the only one. But there is some philosophical basis behind this. And while using or applying this method, you also more or less subscribing to the philosophy upon which it is founded. Like basically the psychology, there are probably different branches and different schools of psychology, but if we take the original psychology developed by Freud, then it's very materialistic. It's extremely materialistic. It's actually one of the pillars of materialism. You're nothing but your mind, and your mind is sick, and your mind is ultimately lusty, and And the lust, the fulfillment of the lust is more or less the meaning of your life and this and that. So while using all these techniques, you are also being contaminated by the philosophy which is behind this. The method may be working to a certain extent, but you don't really know what's going on. Therefore, while trying to get help from different sources, and there's nothing wrong with it, we have to be at the same time very much conscious of what exactly is going on a subtle level. And our way of purifying consciousness and the heart is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. And we all know that it works. It's just sometimes we are little forgetful or negligent because we are too familiar with all these things. And we think we need something a little more sophisticated. What is this? I'm just listening about pastimes of the Lord, and every devotee has this experience. He goes to a class, and if the class is really good, he goes out of the class, he's relieved. There is not so much burden, and he's happy, the heart is clean, and you want to love everyone, you want to embrace everyone, the heart is full, and it vanishes after some time. It's no problem, but but still, this purification you can feel. You really can feel. You go out in the street with Harinam, you come back home, and you feel something happened. But because it's a human psychology, we always think that the grass is greener on the other side, that the other methods are better. But look what other people are doing, I was just recently speaking with one professional or student of professional psychology. He said, every psychologist, that's the rule, that's a governmental rule. According to the governmental regulation, every psychologist who is helping other people, he has to take psychological help himself, at least 1.5 hours every month. So much for this method, so to speak, because he becomes overburdened by this, and he develops some problems. And he has to go to a psychologist and, have a psychoanalysis session, and try to get rid of this. There is no such regulation for... Of course, when I heard this, I thought probably we should do something similar to the gurus, that every guru has to have 1.5 hour of psychoanalysis session. But if seriously speaking, just by listening or speaking about Krishna's pastimes, you become purified.
Thank you for your lecture. I just wonder, purified from what?
Purified from what? Purified, what is the dust, what is the contamination which is there in our heart? All kinds of foreign desires. The innate desire of the soul is to be with Krishna, to love Krishna, to serve. The contamination is, I want to be served. I want to enjoy myself. This is the contamination. So when we speak about Krishna, we really feel very light, and we don't really need anything. But when we are contaminated, we always think, what is, I need to get this, and I need this, and somebody should appreciate me, and somebody should do this to me. So this is what we should be purified of. Selfish nature, egocentric nature.
Can So we have also like bodily needs, emotional needs, and these things as long as we are like trapped in material body and mind. So is that the kind of purification, or it's...
See, the idea and the very foundation of Vedic culture is that when you satisfy your higher needs, the lower needs, first of all, they become less demanding and they diminish. If you are really fulfilled in your heart, then naturally that's proven many times phenomenon that people who satisfy their heart, their soul, their material demands are less. They are not so choosy and demanding. They can be very happy with little rice or whatever. So the idea is that, and when on the contrary, when you just try to satisfy your bodily demand and preoccupied with these futile attempts to satisfy all the bodily demands, your demands become bigger and bigger and bigger, and ultimately you remain unsatisfied. So the idea is that if you satisfy your soul, then emotionally you will be very balanced and satisfied because of this feeling which is there in the soul, and your bodily demands will be less, and it will be very easy for you to satisfy your bodily demands as well. We are not neglecting or denying this emotional need or physical needs. It's obviously there, but we are trying to satisfy both physical and emotional needs through the media of the soul. And if the soul is satisfied, then it's easy to solve other problems. Whereas if we go from down up, soul will never be satisfied. By fulfilling physical demands, we will never be emotionally happy. It's not automatic. Whereas if you go from up down, then by fulfilling the needs of the soul, you will automatically satisfy both physical and emotional demands, if it's really so, if you're really satisfied. Okay, I'm told that I should finish. It's already late. Thank you very much.